if there was somebody there, I would at least see face or their hand as they're hitting the window I'm literally looking at a couple feet away, and there's nobody there. And all you can see is the dust, the sheetrock dust coming up off that window. And I mean, it is banging up. Why the window didn't break, I don't know. But I mean, it was absolutely banging the window. And at that point, I don't really know exactly what I thought other than I'm out and I'm not coming back. Like, this for sure was it.
Welcome to Creepalachia. Today we're exercising the demons. We have Nick Lawrence in the studio. How you doing, sir?
I'm here. How about yourself?
About the same. So we're going to get into a little remodeling situation that you ran into, and we got some photos to show of some eerie things that we can't really figure out what they are. But give people some background on you, where you live, what you do for a living, all that good stuff.
Ooh. So, God, this could go on for a while. Now I live in Oceana, West Virginia. At the time of, actually, we'll just ignore that part. So I've lived the past few years in North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and then came back to West Virginia and kind of do a little bit of everything. I worked for an ambulance company here and in the office primarily. So I'm not actually on the boo-boo bus putting Band-Aids on people.
Nice. Boo-boo bus, is that what it's called?
Yeah, meat wagon, boo-boo bus. There's a few different.
I just put out a post about an EMT, so maybe we can get into a little bit of that. Well, I don't know how much of that you can get into like legally, so maybe we'll see how that goes. But and scoot that mic a little closer to you if you don't mind. So remodeling, how did you get into revamping this potential home we're going to talk about?
So over the past, God, I don't know. Well, since about 2019, I bought my first property. And it was awful. It had no plumbing. All the wiring was from like I don't know, probably since the invention of electricity. Anyways, it was a mess. It had to be upgraded completely. So that's where I kind of got my feet wet on the whole remodeling thing. And then once that finally got done, we rented it out and kind of went from there. Well, I sold it at the first part of this year, made a few bucks, and my grandma and grandpa, their health kind of went downhill. Make a long story short, we kind of thought my grandma and grandpa was paying their bills, even though my grandma's got dementia and my grandpa was borderline demented. Turns out the bank ended up owning the property, and I went to the auction and I didn't want to see my grandma and grandpa's house go back. And then some random person buy it. Needed a little bit of work, to say the least. So I ended up buying it, and maybe that was a bad move, but yeah, we got there. The floor was kind of falling in here and there, and they had moved out back in, February, and moved in with my dad. He was kind of taking care of them. So at some point between February and October, I guess where it just kind of set open, literally, because there were some people that came in, God only knows who and all it was, but they came in, took everything out, pretty well stripped the place, even took the front door, which was really nice of them.
Well,
yeah. They didn't take the kitchen sink, so that was cool. Still had that. And yeah, it was a mess. The floor was falling in several places, and where I had my feet wet, I kind of sort of knew what I was doing on fixing it up. And me and my dad and some buddies, we've been going up every weekend, well, up until it started getting really cold, and just kind of remodeling it and staying in a tent out front and just living our best life.
What's the process of flipping a property? Where do you start?
Oh, Jesus. Thoughts and prayers, and a lot of them, to say the least. I don't know. I mean, just finding a property that is within your budget and then trying to figure out what you can do to that property to make it livable enough to where you can rent it out and then, ultimately make a profit on, or sell it, whatever you want to do. electrical and plumbing, that's probably the two of the hardest things. And then obviously structural, because you don't want to touch any of that unless you're a contractor, then go for it, I guess. But if it's got a lot of plumbing issues, I'm comfortable with that. Electrical, to an extent, I'm comfortable with. Structural, I'm good. Ain't nobody, I'll pay somebody all day long to take care of that. I ain't doing that. But if you're wanting to get into flipping houses, make sure you're ready to throw money into the air and hope for the best, because it is not guaranteed.
Well, especially in West Virginia. Oh, this property's in West Virginia, I'm assuming?
Yeah, it's in Pelham County.
Gotcha. Which the real estate markets went up after COVID because people were buying houses sight unseen from outside of West Virginia.
Yeah.
So it kind of, hurt a lot of the locals. But, with economics, that's how it goes sometimes. But what was the intent with this home? Were you just going to sell it? You going to Airbnb it? Or
so it's definitely going to go on Airbnb. And when I say we, I mean me and my dad, because it's his mom and dad. So I didn't want to really make any decision solely on my own whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of wanted to sell it in the beginning. Whenever I walked in and seen all the issues, I was like, yeah, I'm going to put 60, 70 grand or more into this, plus the purchase price. And then it's just going to be there. So I'm going to have to sell it to make money. But it turned out not being as bad as we thought. It's still awful. I've got easily, since August, I've probably put 80 into it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about 50 grand more than I'd hoped, to say the least. And we're kind of leaning more towards putting it on Airbnb, because those houses in that area are roughly 100, 150 bucks a night, and they're staying booked up, which is the craziest thing, because there's nothing around. The nearest gas station's almost an hour away. So if you need like a pack of gum, good luck. Like, it's just not happening. It's crazy.
So tourism? Well, who's renting these places?
Mainly like the bicycle, like mountain bike people, those people, and then people who just want to get away. I talked to a lot of people that live up there, and they said that basically people from like Pennsylvania, New York, Jersey, and all the northern places, they just go there to get away. There's no cell phone service. The only Wi-Fi you can get is like satellite. So it takes 3 business days to load Google. It's not for me, but more power to you if you want to rent it.
That sounds like home to me. I mean, let's go. No, well, where I'm at, we don't really have to want for much. There's a lot of things around. But I grew up in rural West Virginia, so, that kind of living, it reminds me of my childhood, kind of. I mean, Welch had a little bit going on, and I love it to this day, which we'll get into later. Another story that's going to branch off from this involving Welch. But so where is the property at now to this day?
So far, I came in, we ripped off every bit of the paneling and what a little bit of drywall was in the house, all the carpets, flooring, the subfloor, all the way down basically for the majority of the house, down to the floor joist. Took all that up, put down new OSB, subfloor, new flooring, ripped out all the ceilings and insulation, put all new drywall up all throughout the house, and all new wiring, new breaker box, which was amazing. I may have a picture of the old breaker box on my phone, but I'm afraid to show it because if a fire marshal saw it, he would probably have a stroke. So
old school house wiring is insane. Like my grandparents' home, I believe every wire is white.
Yeah.
So you're kind of just, okay, like using your meter and being really, really careful when you fix stuff. But so is that kind of how this was before you upgraded it?
Sorta. Okay, first off, disclaimer, my grandpa's a great guy. Don't get me wrong. I love him to death. He's like one of my most favorite people in the world. He's a lot of things. He's a great hunter, fisherman, preacher, not an electrician. But God knows he tried. And I guess that's all that really matters. The house never burnt, which is good.
It's a plus.
It's a miracle is what it is.
Right.
So all throughout the house, there was just like random where like he would take a utility knife and take the coating or whatever you want to call it on the wire off. And then he'd have another wire. He'd strip the end of it, wrap that wire around the little coating, throw some tape on it, and that was it. So, multiple places throughout the house, and especially in the ceiling, that those had came loose. So some of the house didn't have power, and some of the house did. Some of the house kind of smelled like it had possibly burnt at one point, and it did.
Right.
There's a few
sniff test.
Yeah.
Okay.
A few dead mice here and there who most likely died by electrocution. Wires just chilling everywhere. Some stuff in the breaker box. Some stuff never even made it that far. It was wired up. It just never was put in the breaker box.
Right.
So that was on day one when I saw that mess. I was like, oh dear God, taking it all out. Every bit of it, it's gone, and it left.
Well, that's good. It's good news. And like you said, I mean, there's a lot of those houses around here. A lot of those miracles, we'll call them.
Yeah.
And some, unfortunately, do burn down, but I mean, that's anywhere. But so kind of we have the stage set. And the reason we're talking so much about this home is it's directly involved with your story, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So kind of set the scene of that first day where you realize like something's a little off here.
Okay, so probably back in my childhood. So every summer I would go up there and I would spend weeks and weeks, and then every rifle season in the middle, right at the end of November, for usually the week of Thanksgiving, rifle season comes in. Me and my family would go up there, but then throughout the summer months, even whenever I was, I don't know, probably a couple years old, I'd go up there in the summer. And I'd done that all the way up until, God, I don't know. I was in high school. So, love my grandma. Another little disclaimer. Great lady, great cook, love her to death. But her taste in movies and TV shows and books and artwork and everything's always been different. Put it that way. I remember like it was yesterday. I was up there in the summer. I don't know. I was probably 10 years old, if that. And there was a TV show or a movie or something on, and it was just a big demonic thing. That's all it was. And it was talking about, this lady had repeated these names of these demons like 6 or 7 times or something like that. And she somehow got possessed after that. And I just remember her saying, Nick, close your ears. You don't hear those names. So I'm 10 years old. I'm just like, this is normal.
Okay,
like,
Granny.
I was going to watch Scooby-Doo. We'll watch this. So it was just weird stuff like that. But it was not that she was obsessed with it or anything. She was always just fascinated by the demonic stuff. I mean, she went to church, everything. Like I said, my grandpa was pastor at that time. And it was just odd like that. But there was always something like that on TV, or there was a movie about it, or she was reading books about it. She read books about other things too, but that was kind of the majority of it. And a lot of old Indian, not necessarily rituals, but books about Indians doing this and that, and praying to this god and whatnot. She'd love reading that kind of stuff. And I think that's where everything kind of started. Now, like me growing up, I was always told by my mom and dad, we don't watch anything like that on TV. We don't read about it. We just leave it be, because that's how it is invited into your home. And then once it's invited, you open the door. So what happens. It's all on you, boss. So that's always kind of been in the back of my head. As far as anything actually happening prior to what I'm about to talk about, nothing really. Now, a few years ago, weird things started happening to my grandma. And like I said, she's got dementia. So we all kind of played it off as it's the dementia, it's nothing real. And it started out that she was seeing people just walking around outside. And like I said, this middle of nowhere, like there's a neighbor next door, but then once you leave this little tiny, I don't really know if you'd want to call it a community, but this little tiny pod of houses, you're going for miles before you see anything else, another house.
Right.
So kind of didn't think a whole lot of it. Was just like, oh, dementia, whatever, if they come back, call 911, that kind of deal. Well, then it kind of got worse where she was seeing people outside and she would go outside and they were hiding in bushes. And then she was seeing little trolls outside. And then we was like, man, do you need a nursing home? Or like, I know that sounds awful, but
no, it's just life. It's things that happen.
So as time went on, I think it was last year before last, that's when things really started to go bad, where these people were coming in the house. And I'm getting chill bumps now. So one of the biggest stories that she's told to us, and she's told them multiple times because I guess it's such a freaky, weird thing, was she was laying in bed. And the way the house is laid out, you've got the front door, which at the time was there. You go in the front door and you come in the kitchen. You go down the hallway and you're in the living room. If you make a right in the living room, you go to the wall, make another right. There's her bedroom. And she said she heard somebody in the kitchen walking through the hallway. Didn't think much of it. Thought it was my grandpa. No big deal. Then this little girl and this man pops their head around into her bedroom and they walk on in and they're just looking at each other. They look at her and she was like, "Can I help you?" And like I said, middle nowhere place. Nobody locks their doors. Nobody does anything. Crime is like not even in the dictionary there. It just doesn't happen. So she was like thinking maybe they're hungry. They need something. They broke down, whatever. They never said anything. They turn around, walk back outside. And she's like, what in the world just happened? She goes walking back to the house, goes outside. Nobody's there. Well, she's telling us this. And once again, we're like, dementia. Time passes. And then she starts seeing weird stuff that don't look really human anymore. And it's at this point, we're like, okay, it is time for a nursing home. Like we're past the point of consideration at this point.
Is she being real descriptive with it?
Yeah. And her stories are consistent. That's what concerned me the most was, if you're lying or whatever, typically the more time that goes by, the more off that story is going to get. Like it started here, now it's here. Her stories, they're on point. They don't change.
Yeah.
So in December of last year, my grandpa had a heart attack. It was pretty hardcore, and he had open heart surgery, some bypasses, whatnot. Well, that was kind of like the golden opportunity where my dad was like, listen, you're not going back home. You need somebody to take care of you. She can't take care of herself. You're coming home with me. Well, Pendleton County's like 4.5 hours away roughly from where he lives. So they move in with him. They got their stuff. Kind of a done deal. The stories stop, but we were, not really thinking about the stories anymore.
Right. So she wasn't relaying these stories after.
No, now that she was gone, it was kind of like, we just kind of thought she just forgot about them and that was it. So we didn't put any more thought into it at all. It was just a done deal. And that's what I probably should have remembered before going up there by myself on the weekends. Yeah.
When did you start going by yourself, your first day?
So August 30th, I bought the house at the auction. And then we closed on the house. I think it was 2 or 3 weeks later.
Of this year?
Of this year, yeah.
Gotcha.
So I was just going up there, for the all the paperwork and whatnot with the bank. Gave them the money, got everything lined out, the attorneys and whatnot, done everything. And then that weekend, you had me. Let's see who else was there. You had me, my dad, my sister, and her boyfriend. And I'd rented an excavator, and we was tearing down an old building that was there. And because love my grandma and grandpa, but my God, they had a lot of junk. Like, it was just awful.
They all do. And,
Yeah.
you know, which is part of the fun. I mean, I say fun.
Ooh.
It sucks that they get old, but, you know.
Yeah, I don't know about fun on the junk part.
Right, right. Well, yeah. In quotes.
Yeah. So we was tearing it down. We had the tent out in the yard. It was pouring the rain. It's when oh shoot, I can't remember the name of the hurricane. It was the really bad hurricane that like wiped out North Carolina and whatnot.
Oh yes. Okay, I'll look that up while you're talking.
So that hurricane was hitting that weekend. It was hitting West Virginia with the remnants of it. So
Helene?
Yeah, Helene. So it had already ripped through North Carolina, made its way up through West Virginia, pouring the rain in West Virginia at this point where we were at. And we're in a tent, tearing down massive building. And once you're camping, and you're done camping, you can't just fold it up and leave it, or you just junked out that tent. So our thoughts were, hey, the house is already cleaned out now. We've got everything out, which there really wasn't much other than like the carpet and the ceiling and stuff that we had tore out. We put it in the dumpster. And when we got ready to leave a couple days later, we took the tent inside and set it back up in the living room. As crazy as that may sound, but it works because it dried out. And,
sure.
You know, my $100 tent didn't get dry rotted. So that was cool. The next weekend, I was going up by myself, went in, working on everything, and I could, due to my work schedule at that time with the job I had, I could only go up on Fridays and I have to leave Sunday morning, which was awful. So really I could only work all day Saturday and go to sleep and leave. Worked all weekend, no issues at all. And at this time, there was no Wi-Fi, no power on the house, no anything. It was just a big box, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So the only lights we had, if it was dark, was your cell phone, and you would charge your phone in the truck, and then good luck on everything else. And yeah, I won't go to that other
typical
story.
West Virginia.
Yeah. So that weekend went by. I felt like I got a lot done. Next weekend, going back up by myself, because everybody's got stuff to do. Not everybody wants to tie up their whole weekend, drive 4.5 hours to a place with no power, food, water, anything, and eat ramen noodles out of a Coleman stove grill thing all weekend long and freeze to death at that time, especially now. I got there really late Friday night. I laid down. Oh, and this is the little fun part. So since it was really cold outside, me being me, I didn't feel like taking the tent outside at 2:00 in the morning, setting it back up, letting the dew fall on it, and freezing to death outside. I'd rather freeze to death inside of a house, because I felt like I could stay warmer inside of the house and have the tent set up in the house. And I had a little blow up mattress in there, little propane stove. Well, not stove, but a little Mr. Heater, buddy heater, whatever.
Yeah. That has the little,
little
red
green cylinder things. Yeah. So it's set up in the little tent. I've got it all zipped up and I'm staying like super warm. Well, I'm laying there. It's probably, maybe 1:00 in the morning, I'd say. Laying there by myself. As I said, no power, no Wi-Fi. You can't watch a movie if you're bored. Really, the only thing you do is sleep. I go to sleep. I'm good and warm. I hear somebody walking. Like, I fell asleep. And this is what wakes me up. I hear somebody walking. And I was like, there's a mouse. And just something about Sleepy Nick being in a tent and a mouse being in that same tent. I don't know. It just kind of freaked me out a little bit. So my immediate thought was raise up, get my phone, shine a light, and it's walking towards the tent. Then that's when I kind of realized, I guess where I was half asleep, it didn't really click that that's not a mouse. That's a person. Any other weekend that we'd been up there, which was only a couple, We had brought our guns in, like a little pistol or whatever, just in case. I mean, you never know. And I mean, the house looked abandoned, so why not? Um, I forgot the gun, so it was just me and my iPhone and prayers. That was about it. I'm sitting up in the bed. I've got my phone in my hand, and it stops, and it's like directly beside my tent in the house, which is crazy. I'm sitting there, and it's like deathly quiet. It stinks so bad. But like I said, 2 weeks prior, if you get Hey Dudes wet, don't put your feet back in them. If you do, you're going to need new Hey Dudes and new feet because you can't clean either at that point.
Right.
And I'd wore the same Hey Dude. So it stinks so bad. I was like, oh my God, why did I take my shoes off, leave them in the tent? Like, that was stupid. And I've got all these things running through my head about this stinks really bad. Why does my feet smell that bad? And there's a burglar literally standing beside the tent, and I don't understand what's going on. And I know that all sounds crazy about like what you would think in that situation, but that's just what I kind of thought.
Sure.
And it makes no sense. Maybe it was like ADHD or something.
Well, who else could it be?
Yeah, really. And that was the thing. So at this point, we'd already replaced the front door, and I put a deadbolt and a little lock on it. I know I locked it because where I'm from, especially in South Carolina, you're going to lock the door, like, and then go back and check it a couple more times to make sure it's locked. So I knew it was locked. So I knew they had either picked the lock or somehow got in one way or another. They were in the house, so there was no mistaking it. And that was a human. No doubt about it. Well, I'm sitting there, and I know at this point, if I move, they're definitely going to know I'm in here. And I have no way to defend myself. I'm trying to be as quiet as I can, not moving. I'm on an air mattress, and if you move on an air mattress, the littlest movement, it's like you got a microphone on it.
Mm-hmm.
They turn around, start walking back towards the kitchen. And I mean, it is plain as day, footsteps. There's no carpet, no flooring, whatever. It's just OSB. There's stuff laying on the floor. I can hear the pieces of sheetrock crunching. It is a human, no doubt about it. A heavy human, put it that way, walking through the house.
So it was heavy, like a heavy.
Yeah, I mean,
presence.
it was like a full-on footstep.
Mm-hmm.
You can hear the stuff getting crushed as they're walking, just like how it would sound if I was walking through there myself. And I was thinking, all right, I can't call 911. There's somebody that just came into the house. There's really nothing here to steal, so that's why they're leaving. I'm just going to kind of lay back down, and as soon as I hear them out on the porch, and the porch I've still not touched, and there's like several boards that's kind of falling in, and it's really loud when you walk on the porch. So I would know when they were on the porch leaving. I never heard them on the porch, but I also at the same time, I was kind of trying to go through all these scenarios in my head on how I'm going to handle this. What am I going to do? So I knew they'd already cleared the kitchen. Chances are I just didn't hear them on the porch. And I was like, all right, I'm going to get out and I'm going to get my gun. I'm going to find out where they went, and we're going to figure out what's going on and why they just came into my house. Because, I'm 6'3" and I might look mean, but that's about all I got going for me.
Yeah, you're a super tall dude.
Yeah. So I get up out of the tent. Yeah, I'm in my boxers. I don't even care about clothes at this point. I don't even have shoes on because I wasn't about to put those stinky Hey Dudes back on. Run to the kitchen. I was going to see how they got in. It's still locked. The deadbolt is still, in its position of being locked. The door handle itself is still locked. And I was like, okay, maybe they didn't leave. And then I'm really freaking out. Like, there's nothing I can do. There's nobody I can call. It's not going to just flip a switch and all the lights come on. And I can be like, all right, where are you at? So I just kind of stood there for a minute, and I was like, you know what? I'm just dreaming. Like, this ain't even actually happening. So I go lay back down. I can't sleep at this point. I mean, who could? I get on Netflix because thankfully it randomly downloads random episodes from shows I don't even watch. I turn it on and I go to sleep. Wake up the next morning. I was like, Jesus Christ, that was a crazy dream. I'm freezing to death, so I ain't about to get out of this tent. I turn my heater back on. I get back on Netflix because there was nothing else to do. And I see that one of the shows that had been downloaded, I think there's like 3 that it downloads at a time or whatever.
Right.
I'd already finished one. And that's when I realized, okay, that was real. Like that actually happened, because I'm not going to watch this hot dog eating contest or whatever whenever I've got Wi-Fi or something in my house. So none of that was a dream. So naturally I was like, all right, screw this place. I'm out. It can burn. It can rot. Don't care. I'm out. So I left. I go down to a little town called Brandywine. There's a dollar store, a gas station, and a Fox's Pizza Hut, or not Pizza Hut, Fox's Pizza Den.
Mm-hmm.
And in the back of the Fox's, there's a little motel. The owners of Fox's also own the motel. Super great people. I love these people. I've stayed there so many times over the past several years.
Right.
And I got a room there because as I said, was not going back to that house. But I did need to get my tools and stuff out.
Is that the count?
No, it's over in the little panhandle there.
Oh yeah, Pendleton County is
Yeah.
on the right. Okay, gotcha. Sorry, carry on.
Oh,
this is beautiful. Is there a lake there?
So that's Brandywine Lake, I believe.
Okay, cool. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean it's especially in the fall like that. That is the most beautiful place. And I know Babcock State Park and all this and that. It's really nice, whatever, but it ain't got nothing on Pendleton County.
It looks like the Smokies, man. I mean, we have hills here.
Yeah.
In West Virginia, and then when you go to the Smokies, you see, okay, that's what mountains are.
Yeah.
Kind of gives me that vibe.
Yeah. That it's a different world there, and it's just, I don't know. It's so amazing. I love it there. I couldn't live there, but I love it, and I love the people there.
Mm-hmm.
So I go back to the house that evening because I was like, man, I'm just crazy. Like I've never had anything like this happen before, but I believe in that stuff, but at the same time, like, do you?
Right. Sure.
Like,
well,
yeah.
Maybe is there, maybe a hint of fun to it until you really experience something?
Yeah. And I think that's really kind of where my head went. I was like, I probably really did just hear like a mouse or something in my brain. But I'd worked all day long. I think I came from Charlotte that morning, and I think that's what it was. I came from Charlotte, went up there, so I was on the road probably the majority of the day, and then I got there, so I was super tired. So that was definitely all in my head, and I just kind of played it off like it was a mouse. My brain ran with it because I was tired, and maybe I'm mental. I don't know. So next day, I go back in the house. All is well. I don't see anything out of the ordinary. Everything looks totally fine. And I was like, all right, whatever. Went on about my business, started ripping down ceilings. No big deal. This is Saturday night. Starts to get dark. And at dark, no power. You kind of got to hang it up and go on to bed at like 6 o'clock. As awful as it is, but there's really no other thing you can do. So it's starting to get dark. I was like, hey, I got some flashlights in my truck. So I set flashlights up in the kitchen so I can see, and I'm going to finish putting drywall up in the kitchen walls and the ceiling. Fast forward about 4 hours, it's 10 something roughly. Well, the neighbor, and ironically, even though there's like not many houses there, their house is, I don't know, probably 20 feet away from my house. And this guy, super great family. He's a preacher, and I mean, there's great people. Like, we've never had any issues. He watches over the place when I'm not there, which is
awesome.
Basically all the time. And
sure.
I really appreciate it. And I have this little zip saw of a thing, and it's the loudest saw. I don't know what DeWalt done to this thing and why it's so loud, but it needs a muffler or something. And it's amazing in a way because you can put the drywall up and then you just stick this little zip saw in and just let it run and do its thing. And you've just made the perfect cutout for a window or an outlet or whatever. So I'm running this thing like crazy, trying to hurry before it gets too late. Well, I hear knocking on the window in the living room. And I was like, oh man, he's got church in the morning. And I think that I'm not sure where the church is, but I assume it's at least 30 minutes away. So he probably gets up pretty early, assuming church starts at 9. He's probably getting up at 6, 7 o'clock roughly. So I was like, man, we're going to get off on some bad terms here. So I just walked towards the kitchen, got my flashlight on my phone, and walking towards the living room, shine the light up, and there's nobody at the window. So I was like, all right, he's going to the
So you thought
front
he
door.
was, saying quiet down.
Yeah, basically a nice way of saying, hey, dude, it's super late.
Yeah, you're
Can
running a
stop?
saw. I need to go to bed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So didn't see him there, and I was like, all right, he's going on to the front door, which is like, you got his house, my house, living room in relation to my house is here, front door's over here. So he was going to have to go by the living room anyways. And I was like, all right, I'll go back to the front door. I'll meet him there so he don't have to come in and breathe in sheetrock dust. Go back to the little hallway there in between the living room and the kitchen. And I hear somebody on the porch, and I was like, oh yeah, I hope he's in a good mood, because I really don't want to upset him. And I'm a nice guy. He's always been a nice guy, but it's this late and he's got to be up early. So he's probably not going to be a nice guy anymore. I get to the front door, which was locked once again. I unlock it, open it. He's not there. So I was like, all right, he's just said, screw it, going back to bed. So I start working on drywall again, not cutting anymore. I'm just kind of cleaning it up, putting a little bit of mud on the walls. And I was going to call it a night shortly after. And then that's kind of when everything went real wrong. So the way the kitchen is laid out, you got the front door, and then there's no windows on this wall at all. It's just front door. On this wall here, there's two little windows over top of where the sink was. And then over here, there's one window, and then you got the rest of the house. Well, this little 2 windows here, if you look out that window, you can see like the little storage building that we've got up on the upper end, and then the road. There's no lights outside or anything. Well, I'm up pretty close to the window, probably a couple feet away. I think I was putting some mud on the wall or something. And then like all of a sudden, it's like if you took your fist and you just started banging on that window. And then first thought was, he's mad.
Well, yeah.
So
it's like a forceful.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was like sheetrock dust was coming up off the window where I'd been cutting, and it just kind of landed on it. So real quick, grab my light, shine it over, expecting to see my neighbor, and there's nobody there. And I know that sounds insane, or now you're thinking, oh, yep, Nick's definitely crazy, but I don't know how to make you believe that.
I believe you just telling me, but let's set the scene of like, you got this house. Where's the next nearest residence, would you say, besides your neighbor?
You can go on up so the house is at an intersection. If you go straight, like directly in front of the house, it goes to a little dirt road. But up this road, there's maybe 4 or 5 houses that people live in. The nearest house going up that way is maybe a quarter mile, maybe. But I know all these people, keep in mind, like I said, I go up there every summer. So everybody knows me. I know them, whatever. The only people I really didn't know was that neighbor, because he just moved there this year.
Right.
On up the road there, the nearest house is maybe 3 or 4 miles. Down the road, you're looking at, I don't know, 10 miles. I mean, it's a good ways.
And you mentioned no crime. There's no like kids, around that you know of.
Yeah, I don't even think a school bus goes through there. There's no kids. There's no crime for sure. I mean, you could put $1,000 cash just sitting in your driveway, and it's going to be there next month.
Gotcha.
Unless an animal, runs off with it or something. But nobody's going to touch it. If anything, they're going to pick it up for you, open your front door, and set it back inside for you.
Gotcha.
I mean, it's wild, but that's just how it is.
That's great. I miss that, especially in a lot of areas of West Virginia are still like that. But so this loud bang happens, and your first thought after that?
Definitely the neighbor. And like I said, I really quickly got the flashlight, shined at the window. And I mean, it's just still going bang, 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 bang.
While
bang.
you're shining the light?
Yeah, and I'm looking in the window. I can see the storage building. Can't really see the road because it's really dark out and there's no lights or anything. But if there was somebody there, I would at least see their face or their hand as they're hitting the window I'm literally looking at a couple feet away. And there's nobody there. And all you can see is the dust, the sheetrock dust coming up off that window. And I mean, it is banging. Why the window didn't break, I don't know. But I mean, it was absolutely banging the window. And at that point, I don't really know exactly what I thought other than I'm out and I'm not coming back. Like, this for sure was it. I get my truck keys. I left. Didn't shut the door. Front door's left wide open. I get in my truck, slam it in reverse, floor it out of there, and left. And I said, I'm not going back.
Did you have your gun on you at the time?
No. And that was another, I wouldn't say a mistake, but I don't know. There was so much going on that morning because all I could think about was what happened and why it happened, trying to justify it in my head. Like, why did I think that was somebody? I mean, the door was locked and, whatever. And I just didn't think to bring the gun in that time either. And I left, went back to Fox's, to the little motel there, laid down, called my dad, and I was like, dude, I'm not going back. Like, it wasn't a person last night. I'd already told him about everything that happened, and he was like, yeah, don't sweat it. It's nothing. You had a long day. You've been working a lot of hours. Don't put no thought into it. Well, then this happened, and then that's when he was like, oh, not a person. You got a demon. And I was like, oh, I ain't about all that. That ain't me. The house might have a demon. Nick ain't got no demon. And he was like, yeah, we're going to get rid of that. Like, and I was like, nah, I don't care. It can stay. It can have the house. Like, we'll sign the deed over. Demon can have the house. I don't mess with that. I don't want no part of that. This is real. I've heard stories. I don't want to be in stories. I'm done.
Right.
So years ago, there was a pastor. Well, he was a pastor now. He wasn't at the time. His name was Jason Boggs. Super great guy. Went to my grandpa's church and became a pastor a few years later. He's the only pastor I know up there. And I messaged him on Facebook. I was like, man, you're going to think I'm crazy, but you got to call me. Because, I mean, who else do you call to get rid of a demon? I mean, Ghostbusters, not
right.
really available.
Yeah. Do you Google that? Like,
yeah, I mean, burn some sage or whatever. Like,
yeah.
And I called him and I'm describing everything that happened to him. And he was like, yeah, let's get rid of it. And I was like, no, yeah, y'all get rid of it. I don't care what y'all do, but there ain't gonna be no we or let's. Y'all going to do whatever. So it was, he has another pastor friend named Brandon. Jason was actually out of town at that time. He was down in North Carolina, doing a lot of, like a mission trip, so to speak, getting food and everything to these people. And I talked to Brandon that night. He kind of ran me through everything. He said, it's not the first time I've had to do this. We actually just done one not long ago. And he went into details about all that. And I was like, man, that's good. I don't care. Get rid of it. I mean, like, I don't need no resume. Just, I want us gone. Like, I've got my wallets in there, my Motrin, which I can buy more of. I don't care, but I need my wallet. I need my tools. And then somebody can have the house. I don't want it. I don't care if you get rid of the demon. I don't want the house anymore. So, long story short, the next morning he calls me. I'm still at the motel because I ain't going back to the house by myself. And he says that it's going to be him and there's several other people coming with him, other pastors and whatnot. And I was like, yeah, man, you're going to need all of them because this guy thing, whatever, is not happy. And I mean, I've saw movies and stuff where demons are picking people up and, throwing them. They're puking up frogs and nails. And so that's kind of what's playing out in my head is like, these people are about to get jacked up and I don't want to see that. So I'm not going. And he was like, we really need you there because, and I may be wrong when I say this, but I'm pretty sure he said something along the lines of, you bought the house. So, how'd that go?
Kind of attached.
Yeah. Sort of attached by association, put it that way. So I was like, man, I don't want to at all. You can call me a girl or whatever. I'm fine with it. Call me whatever you feel like. I'm not. I can't. And he was like, you really need to. I understand if you can't, but you really need to be there. I was like, all right, let's do this. So we all took off, got to the house, and their main goal, number one, was to, pray over the property. Like they went around the whole property border. It's just only an acre of land. So,
right.
They're all walking around it, praying over it. And then he said, do you give us permission to go in and, anything that we feel may have something attached to it or something that could, kind of like be associated with basically something not of God, put it that way. We're going to burn it. And I was like, dude, do it. I don't care if you think the whole house is that way. I mean, if you really feel like something is bad, take it. Do whatever you got to do. I just want to go. So they go in.
How many? Who all's in this squad? How many people?
Oh gosh, let me think. There's probably,
we'll call them the Power of Prayer Rangers,
basically.
Yeah, which is awesome that this is readily accessible. But
yeah, and I don't know if it's always like that because I wouldn't imagine there's like necessarily a big need for it.
Like, so we got to go to Mingo County today.
Yeah, I mean, like,
sure.
Yeah, so it was just awesome that it worked out that way. I'm really grateful for him. So I'm wanting to say there's probably 8.
8? Wow.
Yeah, and that's counting me. So 7 of them, 1 of me. And so they go in the house and they're, getting just crazy stuff that I'd never really paid attention to. Like, like I said, my grandpa was a pastor. So when you go into a pastor's home, you kind of expect, Jesus statues everywhere and crosses and, ton of Bibles and stuff like that. Well, as soon as you go up on the porch, there's like a monk. I don't remember what he called it, but it was not like a Buddhist monk, but it was like some other way far off religion monk.
Mm-hmm.
Been there for years. And I just never really put much thought into it. He was like, first off, that's got to go. And I was like, go for it, dude. Don't even tell me. Just take it. I don't care. So they get rid of that and they take it out to the side and they go on in the house. And then there was just like Indian statues that my grandma had always had in there that I just thought, okay, well, that's Pocahontas and Pocahontas' uncle and Pocahontas' son, just other Indians, whatever. But they all have like these Indian names and the names mean something. And I mean, I've never kind of thought, I wonder what that name means. Because who cares, really? I mean, unless you're a history buff or, whatever, who's just going to sit and Google all these Indian names? It's on these little statues. We Googled one and it was like something of death, or it was just something weird.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, we're just going to get rid of all these. And I was like, yeah, we are. Go. And there wasn't even that much stuff in the house. Like in the actual house part, it was the attic that had a lot of just weird stuff.
Right.
So while he's up there, he also finds this painting, and I've never saw it before. I don't know when my grandma would have bought it. I'm sure she's the one that bought it because she was all the time buying like random pieces of art and paintings and whatnot. But it was a fairly large picture of and I may say this totally wrong, a blackface satanic ritual. Now, granted, unless you've seen this painting before, you have no idea that's what it is. Because to me, it just looked like women in dresses with no face at all dancing around a fire with bones. Now, why my grandma bought that, I don't know.
Dude, your grandma sounds amazing.
I mean,
so let me just say that, but keep going.
Yeah, she is, and she's a great lady. I love her to death. She just buys stuff, and
sure.
I don't know if it come from the Goodwill or what, but Lord, so yeah, they found that they didn't at the time. These pastors, everything had no idea that's what it was.
Right.
But he was like, "This don't look good. It may be totally fine. We don't want to do anything with it until we can, confirm that there's maybe a backstory on this. But let's go ahead and take it. We'll go get cell phone service and see what we can find out about it." He said, "If it's fine, we'll bring it back." Well, they found that, and then there was like random sticks and stuff tied together with like grapevine and just. I'm not going to say it was voodoo because like I know my grandma never done voodoo.
She's a collector.
Yeah. So chances are she just bought this at a yard sale or Goodwill or whatever and just kind of threw it in the attic because why not?
Yep.
So they got that out and there was just a ton of stuff. Then there was like a little box of movies up there and there was a bunch of demonic movies and, Satanist this and demonic this and whatnot. So they were like, okay, these are definitely going. So they got all this stuff out, prayed over everything. And then they said, all right, now it's time to get rid of the demon. And I was like, oh God, this is where it's really going to be crazy. But to make a really long story short, it was nothing. There was no blood coming out of the walls or, nobody bent over backwards and crawled or whatever. It was just kind of nothing. But the weird part is, I don't go to church or anything. I'm a Christian, but I don't go to church, whatnot. And I don't really know how to describe the feeling of what was going on. You got all these people walking inside the house praying, and you just felt bad. Like you felt like, I don't know. I felt like I was depressed at one point and then mad. And I couldn't hardly breathe. Nobody could really breathe that good. And it wasn't because sheetrock dust or whatever. Like you just couldn't. It felt like he was being squeezed. But I mean, you wasn't. It was just heavy. I think that's the best way to say it. We kind of just kept walking around. They're praying really loud. And it's kind of hard to breathe. And you just felt all these different emotions, and then you just felt like a dread almost, like whenever you get the phone call from a doctor that so-and-so has been in a wreck or something, and you're like, kind of the same feeling of emotions there. And then it was just gone. And it was just, I don't know, and maybe it was in my brain, but I feel like it smelled different, like more of a spring Febreze scent or something crazy. And that was pretty much it. And I've not had any more issues at all. I've stayed there a couple times. I'm still weary, but stayed there a couple more times by myself. No issues. My dad, a couple buddies, everybody's been back, and it's totally fine. But what's really crazy, what I've wanted to do throughout this whole thing is really document everything. I want to take a lot of pictures and videos, little video walkthroughs, because my grandma and grandpa, they don't have Facebook or anything like that. They've seen an iPhone, but I couldn't imagine them trying to operate an iPhone.
Sure.
Or really even a computer. So I like to show them, the progress of, this was your house, this is your house. Now, I'm taking pictures all the time, texting them to dad while I'm up there because now we've got a Starlink. So big game changer there. Now we've got not just internet, but internet that works, which is crazy. I'll take pictures and videos, text them to him. He'll show them to him. Or if I don't do that, then I'll show them to him when I get back home. And that's pretty much been it. Well, we were up there for rifle season this year, which about a month ago, actually. We're about to leave. Rifle season's over. It's on Wednesday. We always hunt Monday, Tuesday, and then half a day Wednesday. Then we'll go home. So, we can be with the rest of the family on Thursday. Well, we're about to leave, and my stepmom, she says, "Did you show Nick the picture?" And I was like, "Did you see a big buck today? And you took a picture, or what?" And he was like, I wasn't going to tell him. And she was like, "I think you should tell him." And at this point, I'm like, I don't like this game, so tell me something.
Yep.
And he said, "You remember the picture you took of the deck when you was building the back deck?" And I was like, "I took several." He said, "Did you see anything in those?" And at this point, I'm like, "Dude, no." And he was like, "Well, here's what's crazy." He said, "I was showing them to Mom, my grandma." He said, "I was showing them to Mom, and as soon as she saw the picture, now the actual picture shows the deck and whatnot. I sent you the zoomed in somewhat version. He said, as I was showing the pictures to Mom, as soon as she saw the picture, she said, 'There's that man.'" And he said, "What are you talking about?" She said, "In the window." And he said, "Nick, go back on your phone and see if that was a live photo you took, because if not, we're not able to tell if this was a reflection or if there was something else there, but you need to go look at that picture." And I was like, man, did I get like...
We've got it keyed up. I'll show it here in a minute, but I love how this is being laid out.
Yeah, I go back to my pictures and I find it, and I was like, okay, there was like 4 or 5 different pictures of the deck and everything, and he kind of flips through them, and he's like, "No, this one right here." And since he just flipped through several, I was like, okay, so it's definitely reflection, like 100%. He said, "This is it. Look in the window." And I did, and I was like, oh.
Yep. And I'm going to bring it up here and tell people what we are looking at. I've had it full screen.
So this is basically on the back of the house, in a room that I've still not touched today. So the only thing that's been done to this room, it still has the original ceilings and walls, but the carpet has been ripped out. That's it. There's nothing in that room anywhere. There's no lights. There's no anything anywhere. So I was pretty convinced, okay, it's just a reflection. Behind the house is trees. So maybe there was like some sunshine coming through some trees and hitting some tree limbs weird, or maybe there was, I don't know, a reflection. We'll just leave it at that. But it was a live photo. And
okay, so live photos, for people who don't know, they play like a second.
Yeah, I think it's this one, for whatever reason, and maybe they're all like that, I don't know, I don't really ever pay attention, is like 2 or 3 seconds where you hold your finger down, it'll show everything. And everybody knows, no matter what kind of phone you got or camera, whatever, whenever you hit, when you take the picture, and as soon as you take the picture, you put the phone down, or as you're bringing it up, you take the picture, you might hold it, but you're going to move. Like, you can't hold still unless you really try. I'm taking pictures of a back deck that I just built. I don't really care. So, I'm like this.
Right.
I take the picture, send it to Dad, end of story. So I pull the picture up, look at the live photo, and I move, and it's really plain as day. I move, and that doesn't move at all. And I was like, all right, maybe it was a reflection where it was really close or something, and that's why I wasn't. So we done like several different tests from that day or from that second on that same day. We were just trying to figure out how this happened. Like, what is this in the window? So we go back outside to the deck. I tried to figure out exactly where I was standing at, and I'm moving around, doing everything possible to try to figure out, what's going on. Now, when we was doing this, the lighting was pretty good. The sun's straight up in the sky, so you could actually see a reflection of the pine trees.
Right.
When I would move, I don't know if you call it physics or whatever, but if an object's here stationary and you're looking at a mirror here and you move, it also moves in the reflection itself kind of moves.
Right.
Everything was moving. In the live photo, that doesn't move.
Doesn't move at all?
At all.
Is there any way you could bring it up and kind of just hold it right here at the mic? I think the people will be able to see it. But that's... And like when you sent it to me, I was like, oh, is there lights on inside? Is there this and that? And you're like, nope.
Yeah.
Nope,
so
nope.
actually, this is still during the period where there's no power.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, regardless, there's no lights. I mean, we've not even put wiring in that room yet. So even if there was power on the house at that point when I took that, there's still nothing in that room. There's no lights in the ceiling. There's no lights in the walls.
Yeah.
Nothing's been touched in that.
And for the people listening to the podcast version, it basically looks like some type of face. I don't know if you remember Spawn from back in the day, but Todd McFarlane had a comic book called Spawn, and he had this kind of white mask. But it reminded me as soon as I saw it of like some type of a Spawn type face with the eyes glowing. But so you'll know, the audio crowd, that's what it looks like. But the full photo is on the YouTube version. So I highly suggest you go check this out and let us know what you think. And while you're looking up the live photo, so did, with your grandma, is there sometimes like she'll have good days to where you all can kind of talk and reminisce and things like that? Or is she...
Oh yeah.
Okay. That's awesome.
Some days are super great. And then there's a few days, and that's what's really weird now is now that she's not there, it's like there's not really bad days. So,
oh wow.
Yeah, we're really in this weird mentality. I mean, we still think, yeah, she's got dementia, but then again, we're like, does she? Because now there's no more. I seen people walking outside. I seen little trolls in here. I seen people come in my bedroom. I mean, she always knows who we are. She never really says anything out of the way to where we're like, yeah, or whatever. It's just, it's my old grandma I had 10 years ago. Again, it's really weird.
It's almost like it unlocks this type of vision. Like, I've read a little bit about the third eye and things like that, but also I've read where dementia patients actually seems like they're able to channel things that other people aren't able to,
Yeah.
Which I know I've watched horror movies that have done this, but they're movies.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty incredible. If you hold it up right there at the
yeah, I'm gonna try to do this to where I can I guess that works.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like it doesn't move.
Scoot it back about to your mic. It'll be in focus if it's right there. Yep, we can see it there. Wow.
And I mean, I'm clearly moving and whatnot. But,
and you tried to recreate this, and
we wanted to, without a doubt, see, and even that little bit of movement that I've got there, where just doing this, you could still see the reflections of the trees and stuff move a little bit. But I mean, this doesn't move at all. But what's even more crazy is the big red square
Mhm.
Like, what is that?
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's just like, that's not.
I just assumed like, oh, something's taped
No.
to the window.
No, there's when we got there, that room had nothing in it. It was just carpet, and I'm getting rid of the carpets anyways. So we pulled the carpet out. I kind of vacuumed the floors a little bit, sort of, kind of, what best I could with a little DeWalt battery powered vacuum. Shut the door on it, and to my knowledge, nobody's been there since. But there's nothing in the window.
Wow.
There's nothing in that room, period, let alone taped to the window.
Well, and so for those who don't know, my expertise is kind of like I've photoshopped some stuff, which plays into our later story.
Yeah.
But so you can tell like this is legit. The grain's there. It's definitely in the photo. Nothing's been doctored at all. And this, yeah, I didn't even think about it because I was like, well, it's probably like a condemned paper.
Nope.
Or I mean, you know, which
I mean, it should have been
condemned.
But yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that disappeared too.
Mhm.
Wow. How close was this photo to one of your experiences?
What do you mean?
Like before you heard the knocking, which I mean, your last experience was the heavy knocking.
Yeah, yeah.
But the tent experience, how close was that before you took this photo to this one?
So this was, I don't know if it'd been the week after or 2 weeks after
The first
when
time.
this happened. Yeah.
Gotcha.
But, you know, obviously after this was discovered, I had to go through every picture I've ever took there. Every other picture's fine, like totally fine. There's nothing anywhere. And we've not had anything since. And I've been back multiple times. I mean, this was back in the first part of October.
Mm-hmm.
And I went up every single weekend. And then I started a new job. It was a salary job. The boss kind of told me, because I explained the situation to him. It's my grandma and grandpa's old house. It's literally tore apart right now. I need to get this stuff done before winter. And he was like, man, as long as you can do work, take all the time you need. So there was a few weeks where I'd leave on like Wednesday and go up. So I'd spend all day Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday just working. So I've been up there quite a bit since, and this is it. There's not been anything since. Now, what's really weird, and I guess I should have said this before, the hay dudes that I thought were, you know, destroyed and stinky and stuff from the rain, those don't stink. I've still got them in my truck.
They don't stink anymore.
No. Well, so they never were stinking that night either. And that's something I didn't think about until that next day whenever I got back to the hotel room or the motel room. And
these kind of like what they were?
Yeah, just different color.
Right.
I mean, same thing. Those shoes, I love them. That's all I ever wear. That's what I'm wearing right now. Got a bunch of different pairs of them, but once they get wet, you can put them in the washer, but they're not going to smell good again. Right. Period. So I still wear those Hey Dudes. They did get wet, and for whatever reason, I guess where they got wet, I took them off and just, you know, left them. They don't stink, so like, they're totally fine. They never stunk that night. I mean, you can stick your nose right down in it. They're totally fine.
Wow. And
I was telling that to the group of people that came and was getting rid of that thing, and they were like, "Oh yeah, that's normal. Like, it's just the smell of a demon."
I say it has like a sulfur type.
So that's what I had heard before.
I heard in movies. I'm not going to act like I read.
Yeah, I know. There was nothing sulfur about it or whatever. This just smelled bad.
Like dank, rotting.
More of like a rotten flesh kind of deal. Which is why it kind of really caught me off guard. I was like, man, I know I take a bath, and like my feet shouldn't be smelling like that. But I mean, I'd been on the road all day, so you know, whatever. But it was like a rotten flesh, just an awful smell. I guess that's the best way to describe it. It was really bad.
Right.
And it's just never smelled it again after that.
Wow. So, how's it been for your grandparents to watch the transformation of the place?
Um, at first, I think it was a little tough because this is where they've spent the last probably, I think, about 30 years roughly, and they kind of made it what it was. But they also know when their health started going downhill, so did the house, because they just couldn't, you know, really mow the grass anymore, which thankfully neighbors would step in, they would come do it. Nobody ever asked them to. They just done it.
That's West Virginia for you.
Literally.
Mm-hmm.
So they knew it was kind of going downhill and things were not going great anymore. They were not able to do it. So part of them, they were sad to see it completely change, but they're really glad it got to stay in the family and not some random person from, Texas bought it or whatever. And they're really excited because, I've told them once it's all done, I'm going to take them up there. They can stay there for however long and, just kind of be like old times again.
That's awesome. Well, do you have, I know when I go in my grandma's house, it kind of puts me in my 10-year-old self.
Yeah.
Is that kind of, which I know there for a little while, it got a little twisted, but do you have that feeling kind of going in there? Or is it,
Yeah, I mean, it's, I don't know. I don't feel like me when I go in there. All I want to do is I want to run straight to the bedroom, give her a hug, and then, go ride my bike down to the lake, because that's just what I done every time I ever went up there, or go over to our hunting property and camp or whatever. Like, it just, I don't know. It's a different mentality of there. It's, I don't know. I feel like I had the perfect childhood summers just because there was so much to do, middle of nowhere. Every adult looked after everybody else's kids because that's just how it was. So we would be on, oh God, it's going to be bad. But me and my buddy Corey and his sister Jessie, I think her real name was Jessica, but Jessie just kind of worked.
Sure.
We would go on bikes and we would ride like miles. We would be miles and miles and miles away from home, and it'd start getting dark. And, we're like 9 years old out here running down the highway, 2-lane paved asphalt road at like 7:00, middle of July, random people just passing us by. And then finally, somebody would stop and be like, "Hey, y'all want to just hop in the truck and we'll take you home?" And we knew, don't get in a vehicle with a stranger, but
sure,
everybody knew everybody. So we'd hop in the back of the truck and they'd take us home, or their mom or dad or my grandma and grandpa would come out and find us and bring us back. And nobody was ever in trouble because that was fine. You can do that. Mm-hmm. Or you can go down, spend all night long at the lake and check back in tomorrow, let them know you're alive, and then go do it again. It was totally normal.
Yep. Shoot, yeah. Come home when the street lights are on was like kind of my rule in my neighborhood, which I don't know if it doesn't sound like there's many street lights.
That's not a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so cool. Well, I'm glad you're getting to be able to rehabilitate the house. And do you have kind of a timeline of when you're going to be finished?
Ooh. I'm definitely done for this year. I want to go back. I'll probably start back in probably in March, I would say, whenever it starts kind of warming up, because we've got power on the house now. There's still no heat pump or anything. That was another thing that was taken by God only knows who. They also took the furnace and even the well pump. Like, everything was gone. But anyways, I would like to have it done by this time next year.
Awesome.
Realistically, it might be summer of 2026-ish, if we're lucky.
Well, when it's done, you got to come back and give us an update.
Yeah.
But very excited for that. And we also we've got a secondary story to lay out here.
Yeah.
And it's kind of been a long time coming. So there's this thing called the Welch Underpass. Explain to people who's not from here. Most of Southern West Virginia is somewhat aware now, but explain how you came about learning about this situation going on in Welch, West Virginia?
So, at the time of living in North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, um, I originally from here anyways, so I've got everybody and their mom on Facebook. I was seeing all these posts, Welch is shut down again. Somebody's hit the underpass, or these freaking truck drivers can't drive. They hit the underpass again. Just crazy things like that. And one morning specifically, my dad calls, and at the time he was one of these truck drivers. He never hit the underpass, but he was a truck driver hauling coal. He would get up 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, and then work 14 hours a day hauling coal. And it was an everyday thing. He would call me 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. We'd talk for 30 minutes and then we'd work. He calls me and he's like, "What are you doing, bub?" I was like, just gonna get some work started and drinking my coffee. What are you doing? He's like, stuck in traffic. It's like the second or third time somebody's hit the underpass this month. And I was like, today's like February 5th.
Right.
Like, how can it be the second or third time this month? And he was like, well, like this week. Right. And I was like, oh, okay, that makes it so much better. So,
which it's not, I mean, thankfully no one has been seriously hurt yet. That's why, but keep going.
Yeah. And I was like, dude, how does this, what is going on? Like, it'd been, God, probably 3 or 4 years before or since I'd actually saw the underpass, like in person. So, I'm just seeing these pictures on Facebook. And he was like, man, I don't know. But it's painted. There's signs. There's rumble strips. How? Why?
Yeah. And we're talking, like you said, 3 times in a week. There was a week there. Yeah. It's probably the same week.
Yeah.
One day after another, people were hitting this thing.
Yeah. And it's not like nobody ever really talked about it. It's all over Facebook.
Right.
So that's kind of where it started. My gears kind of started turning. And that is when the birth of the Welch Underpass Facebook page began.
Yes, it's time. We have to vent and talk about this. So I'm intertwined in this one. That's kind of like we've worked around each other for and this and that for years. And this was occurring. And I said, I'm going to do something funny. This is before the Welch Underpass started. And West Virginia tourism has this Almost Heaven campaign. And if you don't know what that is, I'm sure everyone in West Virginia knows what that is, and bordering states. But part of that campaign, they actually put up swings in state parks and various locations. So I said, I'm going to do something funny. So I took a picture of baby dog sitting on the swing and photoshopped it into this photo. And I can't remember where it was put. I think it was put on one of my buddies' pages or something. But I think we were friends on Facebook at the time. And then this photo ended up being the profile pic in the Welch Underpass. And I remember like lightning as soon as this started, and I didn't know it was you at the time. So as soon as this started, everyone was just catching on, and they instantly got the joke. It was just one of those moments of like, let's have some fun. Obviously, we don't want people hurt, but let's have some fun. So I can't remember how it came about, but you ended up messaging, or no, I know what it was. You were starting to raise money.
Yeah.
You built a web page and you were going to raise money for a local charity.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I help volunteer at 5 Loaves 2 Fishes Food Bank. I'm going to throw their name out there. This is pretty cool. They used this photo. I'm sure they know maybe who I am. I don't know. And then I reached out to the page and I said, hey, there's this food bank, local food bank, super awesome. Consider it, when donating this and that. And then I get a message back that says, you know me.
Yeah. Yeah. That was like my golden thank God, because I needed somebody at this point. When I first started, I made one post and then I sent a message to a few different people. And I was like, hey, go to my page and share that post I just shared, because I didn't want, to be the only person that shared.
It's hard.
Then
to
it would
start
just
out.
take it away.
Mm-hmm.
And then everybody like, oh, that's just Nick.
Oh, so you shared the first post.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that could have been.
And I didn't even like the page at that time.
Right.
I mean, I owned the page, whatever, created it, but I didn't want to be the first like or anything like that, but I had to be the first share in order for somebody to start liking it and then sharing stuff or whatever. So a few of my buddies shares it. Then I finally shared it. And I think that first day we had like, I don't know, 1,500 or 2,000 followers on the page. And I was like,
it was
God.
Quick.
Yeah.
It was quick.
And then
for Southern West Virginia, it was really quick.
Yeah. So I made a few more posts that day, and then it just kind of kept going and going. And then I was like, oh God, I need somebody. And I didn't want anybody to know that it was me, because at that time I wasn't even in West Virginia.
Sure.
I didn't live here. I mean, I knew a bunch of people, but it's also West Virginia. Everybody talks to everybody. So I knew if I told like one of my buddies, everybody's going to know, because you might as well at that point just, put it on Craigslist and Facebook, Twitter and MySpace, whatever. Hey, this is Nick Lawrence, everybody. So,
and what was great about it is I knew with you doing it, it was going to be really, really hard for people to figure out who this was.
Yeah, because everybody, I know everybody had to think, oh, it's somebody local.
Sure.
And it was by far not at all.
Yeah.
Which made it so much more fun. The only thing, and a couple people, and I've got them on Facebook now, like you said, I made it, Welch Underpass, I made a post. I don't remember how I said it. Something about, I wanted to do the charity thing, because there'd been so many people saying, sell merchandise, whatever. I mean, I'm not going to lie. At first, I was like, man, I can make like jag of money off this. Like,
sure.
This is great. Like, I have unlocked a whole new level of passive income or whatever. And I'm all about making money anyways. I love that. But I kind of felt like it'd been wrong to not necessarily take advantage of this, but I don't live there. I have really no ties. I still have no ties to McDowell County, really.
And plus the pain of people hitting this thing. Obviously, they didn't have a good day.
Yeah, I don't want to profit off of Bobby Joe or Susie slamming their camper into the underpass. So I think I made that post, whatever. You had messaged me, and I was like, I know him. Yeah. We gonna make this work. He's gonna be my guy.
And from some background with me, like I do video production and things like that. We got a graphic design team. So when we connected, it was instantly like, let's have some fun, but also try to help.
Yeah.
In some ways. And not everyone appreciated this. And I get it. Like usually Welch has a lot of negativity pointed towards it, but a majority of the people got the joke. Some people got a little offended by it, which I get, but it really was started out of getting the community came around it, and, the positivity shined well above the negativity.
Yeah, big. Real big. And honestly, whenever, I linked up with you and we started doing this, I'd already bought the domain and was setting up the Shopify thing. I got on Procreate on my iPad and drew out this hideous looking logo that was white and yellow. And I still don't understand why I done that. But anyways, we linked up with Shopify, and there was a some sort of something you can add to where you can upload this design, they can put it on a bunch of stuff, whatever, and the prices are astronomical.
Yeah.
And I knew I was going to have to charge $15, $20, whatever it was, in order just to make a few bucks. And I was going to pay for the website, the domain, and Shopify fees by myself, and just donate essentially everything.
Yep.
And God, I don't know. Within I think 20 minutes or maybe an hour at the most, we'll say, of the shirt dropping, it was like $1,000, and I was like,
whoa.
Oh, what are you people doing?
Oh man.
Yeah, and that was just not. And I was like, man, who's gonna wear this? Like it was. I mean, that in itself, the shirts and stuff was kind of a joke. I mean, I knew I'd sell 2 or 3, not 2 or 300.
Yep.
And that's really when the light came on. I was like, man, we're gonna have to get more charities involved. And
there was Welch Underpass underwear.
Yeah, I'd hit that stickers. I forgot about those.
Yeah, and I got our team helped revamp the logo.
Yeah, thank God.
So, but that being said, the first check we ended up presenting, I gotta show the trailer before I show these check presentations, because it's really gonna lay out kind of what is in the photo. So my tie into this also is I had a couple friends, shout out Seth Stone and also Mike Browning, who helped on this. Mike Browning plays all the roles in this. And Seth went out and got drone footage of one of the actual wrecks. So I said, okay, I just had Seth. I said, I don't know what I'm going to do, Seth, but whenever you hear something going on, go and try and get some footage. And eventually I just had this idea. I said, I'm gonna make a movie trailer, and we're going to act like this is a real thing on Netflix, coming out on Netflix. So that's what I'm getting ready to show now. And the crew listening, you're gonna hear it. But let's watch.
I just thought to myself, this can't be real. It just can't be. But it was.
The Welch Underpass has been the topic of conversation for the past several years. You mean to tell me that one underpass can't take a few licks? Get out of here.
For years, I was okay. It all seemed to start when cell phones came out. Boom, another. Bam, another. Another, bam. And it never stopped.
It's becoming a problem and someone's going to get hurt. Who cares about the underpass?
Underpass sympathizers have been protesting on a daily basis, causing concern for the future.
We all know what would work. Too scared to say it. I'll say it. Build a bridge.
It's always New River Gorge, New River Gorge, New River Gorge. What about me?
I'm doing very well. What? A man can't make $1. It's kept me up at night, and I can't run trains anymore because of what I've seen. I keep telling them time and time again, put some lights on the signs. It's just like a powder keg here in Welch, and it's ready to explode.
Where the baby dog?
I just got tired of it, over and over and over, until I knew. It's time to fight. Enough is enough.
I love it.
Dude. So we did this, and I sent this to you, and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And we just knew. Sometimes you just know when everything comes together, and like you got lightning in a bottle. So this releases, I think it ended up getting like, I don't know, a little over 80,000 views on Facebook. And after this, Seth and me, mostly Seth, was inundated with messages saying, I knew you were it.
Yeah.
Because there's not a lot of people around here that, do video production. So they just, and mainly Seth I think he got 6 or 7 messages saying, I knew it was you. And he's like, no, it ain't me.
What was weird about that is like, the underpass would get all these messages saying, hey, Seth, or something. And I'm like, who's Seth?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, you didn't even know Seth.
No. Like, I never heard of Seth.
Oh, yeah, let me turn this up. So, yeah, the only tie-in for all of these people was me, really. I'm kind of the only one that knew everybody, which was great because it gave everyone plausible deniability.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't know Seth. Seth didn't know you. Mike didn't know anyone. I mean, he knew Seth, but so it was just fantastic. But after that, you know, the sales spiked a little bit. We actually, here's a mug. You did color changing mugs with the original logo. So, let's show this first check, and then I'll start to bring in what started happening after that when it started becoming apparent, like, oh, we're going to have to or you mainly, you're going to have to turn into customer service.
Yeah. What was really crazy though, is like the first few sales, you know, I'm not, especially at that time, you know, a big Shopify wizard or whatever.
Right.
I didn't know that the reply to email that was being sent to everybody that bought something was my email.
Mm-hmm.
Like my my email, like my personal
email.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So as they were getting these emails from Shopify, well, it was supposed to be from Shopify, but it was coming from, technically speaking, me.
Right.
And it would say Nick Lawrence, and then it had my little email and the little brackets, and a lady had messaged and she said, hey, Nick. And like, I didn't know her. I didn't have her on my Facebook, never even met the lady. And I was like, who? And because this is a little different.
Like what?
Yeah, this is way different than like Seth, because I really don't know who Seth is. And I'm like, hey, this ain't Seth. And I was like, who's Nick? She was like, Nick Lawrence. And I was like, oh. And I was like, you got to tell me now. Like, how do you know that? Like, what did I do?
Did you know this person?
No.
Okay.
And I still don't, which is, I got her on Facebook now. Just don't know her. But anyways, she added me and I feel like I needed to add her back.
Right.
Anyways, so she finally told me, you know, your email was on the emails. And I was like, what do you mean? And then she took a screenshot and sent it. And sure enough, at the top of the email, it's like Nick Lawrence and nickdlawrence@gmail.com. And then at the main bottom, it's got my phone number and like, and I was like, oh God, how do I fix this? So it's like 2:00 in the morning. I'm trying to get a hold of Shopify and like all these people, looking up stuff on Reddit and YouTube. And I finally got it off, obviously. And, but there was like, I think it was the first 6 or 7 orders that had my information all over it. And, that was a disaster.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Well, then good on them for not blasting it out.
Yeah.
There,
And I made them like promise or swear to secrecy that like they wasn't going to say anything. I was like, if you just tell people, this is over. And then like, you're just hurting everybody else. So don't do that.
Yeah. And it's kind of time, like it's died down a little bit. And, and I'd like to say that if you notice, that trailer was a PSA. It was basically like, listen, anyone driving through Welch, read the freaking signs, stop hitting the underpass. And to our credit, since that video released, I think maybe 2 people has hit the underpass.
It really has. I mean, I'm not going to say like, you know, our videos on Facebook really helped, but there has been a significant decrease of accidents.
There has, which I think Welch got the state road. They come out and they reinforce the signs, painted, you know, brighter yellow on it. I'm sure all that stuff helps. Shout out to Welch for trying to fix this problem. But I mean, let's go. We kind of solved this issue. I mean, if anything, it's 50% of the solution, I think, because everyone really latched on. And even now, you made a post today and it got like 70 likes in like 20 minutes.
Yeah, I'm probably afraid to even look and see what's being said, but
and you'll probably end up sharing this interview later. We just felt like, I think it's time. I think it's time to let people know the backstory. And this is so small town. It's ridiculous, but it's so great in that way too, because here's a picture of a check, the first check that 5 Loaves and 2 Fishes got for $590. And this was the first of 3 checks for initiatives going on in McDowell County, which I'll go through one by one. But a lot of people asked me, or didn't ask me, but I saw them asking, where was this photo taken? And they would ask Linda with the food bank. They'd say, who is it? Like, was he there? He was there in that photo. And to tell everyone how this happened is me and Mike actually shot a bunch of poses of him acting like he was holding a check.
And this is
in
not
his
even
yard.
me. So
yeah, this is not me. No. Originally, we were going to do like this expose for WVVA. That was before the Netflix film came out, but they didn't really want involved in that. So I was like, okay, well, so I didn't tell them who it was. But this was essentially Mike standing in his front yard with a green screen. And I would go on location and bring this check and then have them act like there's another person there holding the check. So the first one was 5 loaves, 2 fishes for $590, which they feed, I want to say 600 families on average a month, or 600 individuals. And I think around 100 to 130 families is usually the average. But and also the website's shut down now, right?
Yeah, it's down. I still own the domain. I'm just not. It's a little expensive running a website.
Yeah, and the fees, like, you had to explain to a lot of people, like, the fees were, I don't even know how much of a percent. It was a lot. But here's another one. It was we ended up giving to the Mount View baseball team and the Riverview baseball team. And I did this the same way. You can kind of tell on this one, the mic's a little darker than the outside, but I had him hold up the number ones, because doing different poses. So we got that with Mount View, and then we got one with Riverview, and each baseball team got $105. So we was able to put those together. And also the final check, when it really started dying down, was the McDowell County Humane Society, which was $175.70. But same way, I just told everyone, like, act like he's here. He's a busy man, He's contacting insurance claims on a daily basis. So I had a lot of fun with it, and that was part of the fun too, is the mystery of nobody knowing who this was. So what would you like to say to everybody about that experience?
God, I don't know. It's been such a weird time. Like, we still have over 10,000 followers. That's still crazy to me.
Broke 10,000, and that was relatively quick. Like, you could have went way higher if you had the time to dedicate to it.
That was my biggest thing. Is number one, I didn't really have time for any of this, and I definitely didn't have time to manage the Shopify chaos, because I was working with Shopify, and there's I'm sure it's a good platform or whatever, not knocking it. And I think it was called Printify, maybe.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I'm sure that's great too, but the pricing on Printify changed so much. And then if one supplier would run out of the color changing coffee cups, and we had 20 people ordering those that only had 3 in stock. Okay, well, this one in California has it in stock. So, the customer's already paid, and now it's going to have to come from California. So the shipping just went from $8 to $22. Okay, well, Nick Lawrence just paid $3 for this, because the $20 they just paid for a coffee cup just got $8 in shipping, and now I'm eating the product cost and the shipping cost myself, and whoever the charity is, they're making no money on it.
Yep. Yeah, we started, and so everyone knows we didn't make $1. If anything, like, we spent our time, our gas. I bought that check, made the video, didn't take any compensation for it. So rest easy. This was all in good faith, and we really appreciate you chipping in because it did go to a lot of good. I know Food Bank alone, the Humane Society, they are solely donation driven, as far as I know. And the baseball teams, the coaches, they don't get paid anything to help these kids. I mean, they may get compensated, maybe their gas.
Yeah.
but for sure not their time. I mean, maybe a penny an hour, you know.
Yeah.
So thank you all. But yeah, so people started messaging saying, "Oh, my coffee cup, it doesn't color change," or they maybe not knew it color changed. So
That was the
it.
thing. Or I think the majority knew that it changed, but they didn't know how to change it. Or else they'd pour coffee in it and they thought it was supposed to continuously change back and forth. And I was like, did you put batteries in it? I mean, I don't know. I mean,
You're sitting there like 11 p.m. like texting while the devil is in your room or in your house you're remodeling.
Literally, like, man, it was just, and there was so much goofy stuff. And, you know, I'm not talking bad about anybody. I appreciate you guys so much. And the people that helped, I know they appreciate it too. But like, at no point could you order something on there and select pickup. Pickup was never an option for obvious reasons. And there would be people messaging, I placed my order. Can I pick it up tomorrow? I'm like, bro.
Oh, man.
No. And if so, where? I don't even know where it's getting made at. Like I had no horse in this race. So why? I mean, I don't know. Go to bed, I guess.
Oh man. And I know some got like defective shirts and
Oh yeah.
there'd be random stuff like that we had no control over.
Yeah, and even today there's still a few that's still not been fixed, and I literally have no idea how to fix it. And what's so bad about all that, so right at the end of everything, that's when there was a few people, I think there was maybe 3 or 4 people that said, hey, my shirt came and it's like printed upside down, or there was a hole in one, and I think one, I don't know, was missing a sleeve or something. It was something crazy.
Sure.
And like
where are they making these things first off?
Yeah, really. Like, is there no quality assurance at all?
And for those people out there, if you're listening, please message me. I will reimburse you since you know who it is. We will reimburse your shirts.
Yeah, I'll
for
gladly.
sure.
I feel like now everybody's back. My shirt was also defective.
Oh well, I mean, you have to provide proof.
Yeah, we need to see proof. But it was right at the end. That's when a few people had messaged, and then I done this contest, and Crystal, or I don't remember what her husband's name is. They just commented on the post I made
not
today.
Jeff, is it?
Well,
Crystal. Oh, the post you just made.
Yeah, it's the post I made today. She had mentioned it.
Gotcha. Let's see here. We got? So today, Nick, well, the Welch Underpass says, sad this time of year, all you humans take away your lights on your homes. No one ever puts any lights on me. So it's just such dad jokes that went into this thing.
Literally.
And people would just love it. And it was just so great. Which one?
Let's see, scroll on down. Yeah, right there, the Walter and Crystal Brewer. So they had won right at the end of everything. I ran this little contest. If we hit 10,000 followers, nobody had to buy anything, nothing like that. As long as you commented on the post, you were going to be entered to win something. We gave away shirts. Well, I think there was like 2 or 3 shirts, a coffee cup, stickers, and a few other things, and then a pair of bloomers, which was just my favorite thing. I've still never seen any of them. Actually, I don't think I even have a Welch Underpass shirt.
I think I have one. Man, that's bad, ain't it?
Obvious reasons. I was like, I'm not buying anything.
Right.
And obviously that was the only way I could get something, so I bought it because I don't even know the people that made it. But anyways,
third party people, we have no control.
Yeah, that will always remain a mystery. So I done this contest thing, giveaway, and got tons of comments, whatever. And then there was a fake Welch Underpass page made that was commenting, if you remember, and they were like, congratulations, you won. And I was like, what? So it's like 3 or 4 in the morning. My phone is like blowing up from people messaging, and I was like, what is going on? And it turns out everybody won, apparently, according to this fake page. And what was so bad is that page would say, kindly DM me to claim your winnings, because that's legit.
Mm-hmm.
And they would. and then they would back click this link, just pay shipping. And there was a few people that
Phishing
unfortunately
link.
did.
Yep. Which is awful.
Yeah. And then they would message me and be like, hey, I paid for the shipping, thank you so much. And I was like, what? Like, I'm covering everything. So like all I got to do is go in and what do you mean you paid? Where did you pay? And they were like, here. They sent me this link and I was like, oh dear. And then I seen all the posts and were the comments. So I had to turn off comments on that, go in and block. And it wasn't just like one page. There was like 20 maybe or something. So I had to block all those. And then I had to set a filter in the settings. It said like, if you posted a link or whatever, it automatically be hidden. You wouldn't know it, but nobody could see it except for me.
Sure.
And that was a disaster. So I made another post for people to comment on. That one went a lot better. And then anyways, the Crystal lady or her husband, it's a shared account. One of them won a shirt and she's kind of been like on me like every month.
Oh.
Where's my stuff? And what had happened was at that time when we done that last giveaway and I shut the website down because that was just we had went so far downhill on sales.
Donation. It wouldn't have been worth it.
Yeah. I didn't want to present a check for $4.10 to somebody.
Sure.
So, shut the website down. When I done that, everything poofed on the Printified thing or whatever it was called. And I was like, okay, no big deal. So I go back on there for this giveaway and, there's like so many different suppliers and whatnot. And anyways, there was like a minimum order of 1,000 units per SKU. So you had the coffee cup, the t-shirt, the stickers, and it was a lot. And it was going to be, tens of thousands of dollars to get it all. Then I'd have 1,000 of each product and
there's just no way.
No.
Yeah.
So I still definitely want to, I'll probably try to find somebody local or something, that can make.
Oh yeah.
Something.
Oh, listen, we're going to hook Crystal up. If you're out here listening, Crystal, I'm going to get the team that I work with. We're going to work on this and get you hooked up with some stuff. So very sorry for your experience, but Nick, we couldn't help it.
Yeah. It was just awful timing. It was like at the end, and I keep going at the end. It really wasn't the end, but the end of the website, we'll say everything kind of went downhill and then it just crashed right there. And then at that point, it ain't like you can just message everybody and be like, hey, just kidding. So
right.
I worked for a good while trying to find somebody else who could do it. And then I found some people who said, oh yeah, I can make t-shirts. I can make that easy. And then there were some people who was like, oh yeah, I can make the stickers.
Yep.
Still can't find anybody to make the panties. Bloomers.
Right. Yeah. That was, that's going to be, but see, like you post things like it says my nuts and bolts are cold, 280 likes, 209 early on. Like you'd post pictures. I sent you a thing that was acting like it was Enterprise. I can't remember. I don't know. It was some kind of fake thing, but man, it really caught traction. So sorry, you all, that you're now in on the secret, but we felt it was time.
Yeah, it's been almost a year.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because the fact it's been so much longer.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, it was so fun though. I'm glad no one was seriously injured that hit the underpass, but come on, let's stop. Let's just, literally stop and then turn around, go under the other side of the underpass and you will be perfectly fine. And people, seems like they're doing it now.
But
yeah, and so like Nick would put himself in the form of the underpass and would post things, as he is the underpass, and it became this whole thing. Which I looked up after this. There's several communities that have places like this where trucks literally hit it and they call it, like they name it and brand it and give it a page, and a lot of them would set up video to just watch
that was almost a thing here. The problem I ran into, I'd have to go back in my emails and look, but there's a company that actually provides the solar panels, the satellite internet, basically, and everything you need. They'll come set it up, whole 9 yards, just for something that people's going to actually watch, because they're going to put ads on it, and they're going to make money.
Sure.
They were ready to rock and roll. I showed them the page, and at that time, it was blowing up. I could post. I think that might have actually been when I posted high. I said I can post high, and it's going to get people liking and comment on it just because.
Yep, they'll be like, "Oh, I get it, the name."
Yeah.
Yep.
And it was just something goofy that I'd posted, really short, whatever. And they're like, "Sure, yeah. What's an address we can come set this up at?" Well, so I get on the West Virginia tax map. And I'm looking at like who owns this piece of property and whatever. And it's like privately owned. And if it's not privately owned, then, it's owned by the state. Regardless, I was going to have to make a phone call to somebody and say, "Hey, my name's Nick Lawrence, and I'd like to set a camera up in your front yard permanently." So that's kind of where that died.
Oh, Lord. Yeah. And that being said, Welch has had a campaign to build a bridge over the underpass, which I get it. They're trying to solve a problem. So we made memes, and you heard on the trailer, build the beeping bridge. That was kind of a play off that. So, it's something they've took serious, and rightfully so. And it's not that we didn't, but we felt that an approach at humor, not poking fun, and anyone that took it that way, that's completely wrong.
Yeah.
But we felt, an approach at humor would spread the word. And it's looking like, with a combined effort with everyone, including the Welch community, that it is somewhat solved. And I'm scrolling back here to the profile pic so we can show the original picture. So you were saying you ended up like, I'm not contacting private property owners to do this.
It was because it had to be set up so many feet away, and then it had to be set up obviously where someone could get to it because it's a solar panel. And it was kind of a whole ordeal, and it had to be placed for, I think it was 10 years before they'd remove it.
Right.
So yeah, it was
a whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I got to take pride in this too. There were actually comments in here that thought that Baby Dog really did have a new Almost Heaven swing in front of the underpass and took a picture in front of a truck. So do not, people, especially with AI, pay attention to what you're looking at and don't believe it unless you're standing right next to it. And almost not for that anymore. You know? But yeah, a little bit of a troll there. But yeah, I feel good. I feel like we've exorcised the demons in your home, and also not really demons, but this secret.
Yeah.
This community secret is now public, which we talked about beforehand. I was like, is it time? And you're like, let's do it, man.
Yeah. I would love, I think I'd like to have went, another year or two without people knowing, but it's the simple fact of it's not necessarily over. I've still got plans to hop back in and, help another charity out, whatever, whenever. And I'm sure this might take away a little bit of the fun, but it's kind of dead.
Yeah, it's kind of, yeah. Well, like you said, the effort it was taken to put into it, not that we didn't enjoy it, 98% of the time, but the effort it was becoming a regular thing, and we're busy.
Yeah, it was literally, even with literally this team of people that we'd secretly built, it was still a very time-consuming, hectic, insanely crazy thing. Thankfully, nobody knew it was me, and I could just, mute the underpass page, which it pretty well stays muted still yet. So I don't get 5 gazillion notifications because somebody wanted a message and sent a picture of them in front of the underpass, which was
that's cool.
That happens all the time, even still yet. And I'm rarely on there. I get random pictures of the underpass all the time, and I'm just like,
let's put some time in it and post the people taking selfies with it if they. Yeah, that's awesome. How cool! And I'm telling you, I drive under it now, and I'm like, this is a thing.
Yeah,
you drive under it, and you're like, this feels like a thing. I don't know who else feels like that, and I was involved with it. But it's cool, man. You got to embrace things in your community, and that's That's this.
Yeah.
So,
And I feel like there might have been a few posts I made where I was kind of like, what's the name of the mayor dude again?
Mayor McBride.
Yeah, McBride.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like he probably at some point may or may not have been like, why?
Yeah. Sure.
And that's understandable as the mayor of Welch, but it was all in fun. And I feel like we done good in the process of the chaos.
Yep.
So,
And to Mayor McBride's credit, he does a lot of great things for Welch. I mean, they're always coming up with events and people visiting.
yeah.
and-
So I didn't know, which, I've not been to Welch and I don't know how long. Plus, at the time of the creation of all this, I wasn't even West Virginia, period. But I didn't know Welch had like so much going on. Like,
Yeah.
it's kind of popping. I mean, like, there's a lot of stuff, and like, I had no idea until I get a random message being like, hey, do you want to sell t-shirts at whatever event? Or, hey, we're going to set up a booth and have a few of your cups out, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay. I mean, I couldn't really be like, yeah, I'll be there.
Yeah, I'll be there. See you there.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, listen, people of Welch, I grew up there. Some of the greatest people on earth. Like you mentioned, there's events always going on. Harold's done a lot of great work since he's been in office, Mayor McBride. And I hope you don't take too much offense to this. It's all in good fun, but also it was to help spread the word. And I feel like all of our combined efforts has hopefully solved the problem. So
I think
no
it's
hard
definitely
feelings.
helped. Yeah. Yeah. That was kind of my biggest concern because I know, especially like the people that was pulling the camper, or there was somebody, or maybe it was in one of the box trucks that hit it. I'd posted the picture and they sent a message and they were not very happy.
Sure.
And I was like, I'm just posting a selfie. You got a problem with that? Because it was pictures of underpass and a squashed box truck or a camper or something. And I get it. And maybe I could have deleted it. But if I would have, then that would have kind of took away a little bit.
Yep. The good outweighed the bad in our opinions. And granted, that's awful. Sorry you all hit it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, part of our goal is we don't want this to happen again, which is why we share it and spread the word. So
I've actually, about a week ago, I guess it was, I actually did go to Welch. I in my truck, and it's a Ram Laramie, so it's not lifted, it's not anything, whatever. And as I was going, towards the underpass, first off, like you said, well, I was like, there I am. Like, that's kind of cool. But as I was going towards it, I was like, man, am I going to fit? And like, I'm just in a truck, like a regular truck. And then I'm thinking, at what point in a Peterbilt or anything besides a car, do you look at this and you say, I'm good? I mean, what? So,
dude, yes.
I was kind of thinking, maybe they thought, oh yeah, I'm going to fit, and they went on through. But I swear, I think it's cell phones or.
I think cell
crack.
phones is the problem, to be honest. Now, I know that's not all the situation, but I think people are looking at their phones, not paying attention.
Yeah, I think so. Because I don't know. And I guess it's just where I don't really go to Welch ever. That's why I thought, oh God, like in my truck, I started once like shoot through the little dip thing because I don't know. It's little. Like, that is a short. I question the 9-foot thing a little bit. I mean, I'm sure that's right, but.
Well, I've heard that they've paved and it's off. I've heard that the paving over the years that they haven't removed certain layers and it's actually built up. But how true that is, I don't know. But it's definitely, I think someone's going to ultimately hit it again. I hope not, but it definitely is a problem. Still is a problem. It's just not as big as a problem.
Yeah, and I really feel like there's no solution. I mean, there is a solution, obviously, but people's going to hit it until there's an alternate route or they build the bridge.
Which is logistically an impossibility because the slope of the bridge would have to start somewhere around the hospital to down to the middle of town. So who knows how many buildings you'd have to tear down. I mean, I don't know. I'm not an engineer, but yeah, I mean, we're talking a $10 million project. Easily.
Yeah, it's not. I don't know what the solution is, and maybe there literally is no solution. But why can they not just like build that up and then just make it to where you just drive over the railroad track?
See, they used to have a section where buses could go over it on the right-hand side. And I think they covered it up when they built the flood wall. I'm not sure. People comment and let me know exactly what that was. But I remember distinctly, actually, I'm pretty sure my wife got stuck on that train track when she was on a school bus when she was real little. But I believe that's how it used to be. And then when they built Martha Moore Park and they built this huge flood wall, and that's when the underpass came in, they built that lower section. And then eventually, this problem didn't start happening until cell phones. It 100% did not. And then until like people started getting anxiety because of these things and texting and driving, they can't put their freaking screens down. That, you know, again, not everybody. Some people, I'm sure, just drove right through there, not thinking anything of it, because it is weird because you're on you have to go on the opposite side.
Yeah.
If you're going, and that's why people hit it coming out of Welch.
Yeah.
Because it's on the right hand side of the road.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's why most people hit it coming out, I would say. But even still, I mean, it's a weird structure. So that definitely doesn't help. But well, I was going to say, what irony would it be if you drove and hit the underpass? You know?
I would probably get out of my vehicle and just jump in the river and just call it quits. because somebody would post a picture of it and
you'd have to share it.
I can't. Yeah. I can't. Not me.
Yeah, that's great. Oh man. Well, last question. What's your favorite dish that your grandma used to cook?
Oh gosh. It's not even a dish, but by far her hard candy. The hard candy, it's like oh Jesus. You buy little things of the flavoring, so like this big, and she's got to make the sugar and all this other junk boil for so long to this temperature, and it was like the most simple recipe ever, and it was the best candy for some reason. I don't know what she done different. Like I just made some of it actually probably 2 weeks ago. I mean, it's good, but it ain't the same.
Yeah, so, right. It's not the same.
And I don't know what she done different. I remember one time as a kid though, she was making cinnamon. And I didn't know, like I was a kid. I was probably like 20, probably not 20, but I was probably maybe 10. And she poured the cinnamon into the bowl of, or the pan pot, whatever, of soon to be candy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm standing like right there, and she done told me to back up like multiple times. So I guess she was kind of at the point like, you're going to learn today. So I'm standing right there. She dumps that in, and my eyeballs, oh my God, don't recommend it. That was awful.
Oh, man. Well, Grandma, Grandpa, wherever you are, we love you. Nick loves you.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing this story, Nick. Appreciate you being here. If you all haven't done it already, please subscribe to Creepalachia on YouTube. We have a TikTok channel. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Review the podcast. Let us know how your experience was. And be sure to comment. Have you enjoyed the underpass? We want to know about it. Have you had a demon in your house? We want to know about it. Anyone interested in being on a potential interview, email me at creepalachia@gmail.com. And laugh, people. Let's not take things so serious. What do you say, Nick?
Yeah, you only live one time. Don't be miserable, man.
Only live once. We appreciate you all and hope you have a wonderful evening.